Well, I know that many of you did watch last week's presidential debate. And if it's one thing we learned from watching that debate was the power of non-verbal communication. And when we talk about non-verbal communication, we talk about how things are said, not what is said. So I wanted to spend a couple of minutes today reminding us all of the enormous power that nonverbal communication has. So let's break it down. There was a professor at UCLA University, Professor Albert Mehrabian, and in an oft quoted statistic, he says 7% of the way a message is received is the actual words. The actual words I'm using now. The actual words I'm using now. Or the actual words I'm using now. He went on to say that 93% was nonverbal. And he broke it up into 38% was your voice, vocal inflection. Did you sound commanding? Did you sound like your voice resonated? And then 55% was everything from eye contact to body language to dress to facial expression. So the lesson I think we all learn from this is that we need to be more aware of our nonverbal. In fact, we talk about nonverbal communication or nonverbal language as paralanguage. So we don't actually need to be speaking to communicate. So if I smile, look warmly into the camera, nod, I may not be speaking in that moment, but I'm communicating. And it's just a reminder again to all of us of how acutely aware we need to be of facial expression. And particularly in a virtual world where it's very easy to look distracted or concerned or inattentive or be multitasking, or in fact not have your camera on at all. That's nonverbal. The most powerful nonverbal in the virtual world is eye contact. And right now I'm looking directly into my camera, because if I look down, if I'm on a Zoom screen or a WebEx team or Teams call or whatever, and I look down to see you, you don't feel that I'm looking up at you. And then just body language. We say the amount of space you take up is directly proportional with how comfortable you look. So are you taking up space? Are you looking open? Are you looking defensive? One of the things we say in body language is to open our palms, to say, look, I come in peace, as opposed to I'm being defensive. And then let's talk about voice for a moment. Having a strong, powerful, commanding voice. Now, that doesn't mean you have to just be aggressive, but think of your voice as a highlighter. Think that if I'm going to emphasize certain words, then I use my voice to highlight them. Pausing is a powerful nonverbal. So in all my classes, whether I'm talking about presence, executive presence, leadership presence, even if I'm talking about networking or influencing with or without authority, or if I'm doing a keynote on owning your network or dealing with change, all of these things, there's a verbal and nonverbal aspect. And I'm just reminding us all to be acutely aware of the power of nonverbal communication. Because ultimately, our goal is to have the other person receive our message in the way that it's intended. And if we don't master our nonverbal skills, we often miss out. So often in my coaching practice or keynotes or workshops, I'm asked to assist somebody who, let's say, finds it difficult to deal with conflict. And again, even in dealing with conflict, there's an element of verbal and nonverbal, because there's a big difference between there's been some miscommunication here and there's obviously some miscommunication here. When you are speaking on a phone, your voice is the what and the how, the verbal and the nonverbal. When you're texting or emailing, the words are the verbal and the nonverbal. So check tone. And when you're in person, you have facial expression, body language, stance. So please, it's so important for all of us to practice these and just to be very, very conscious and constantly aware that nonverbal communication is powerful. And nonverbal communication is powerful if you are going to truly own your space.
So what does it mean to own your space? So Own Your Space, which is my book, keynotes, workshops, is all around giving yourself permission to be the person presenting information. If you are giving a sales presentation or you are being interviewed for a new position, do you own your space? Do you look comfortable? Do you look confident? Do you come across both confidently and competently? And in owning your space, you need to understand the verbal and non-verbal elements of your physical space. In other words, what you say, but equally important is how you say it. And then we look at your virtual owning your space. Is your LinkedIn profile complete? Do you have a good picture of yourself? Think about owning your podium when you give a presentation. Do you look comfortable? Do you look commanding? So these are just some of the topics that I cover in Own Your Space. And I ask you to really think about, do you maximize the overall way you project yourself in every interaction? Because if you do, you are truly owning your space.
And you can only truly own your space if you master non-verbal communication skills. I'm Nadia Vilcek. It's always a pleasure. Please go onto my website, nadiaspeaks.com, or YouTube, or link in with me. I'd love to stay in touch. Oh, on another note, I am starting an artificial intelligence support group, an AI support group for people who are finding AI challenging or overwhelming or need some help on how to navigate it to use for your specific industry job area. So email me, Nadia@Nadia Vilcek, and I will send you information on our AI support group. And with AI, I suppose there's also a verbal and a non-verbal aspect. So here's wishing you a week of really owning your space.